Hello, everyone, and welcome to a pop-up podcast. Got a very exciting show for all of you who are, I'm sure, going to jump on in your droves very shortly. We broadcast to a number of channels tonight, and I'm just waiting to be joined by the amazing Jeff Dunphy, who is a wonderful metaphysician, physician, teacher of spiritual truths, and he's got a presentation for us today for an up-and-coming event, which is going to be very exciting to go into it with him. He's going to be leading that charge, but let us know where you are from in the chat. I think Jeff is just joining us here, so I shall bring him in. But let us know where you are from in the world. I know we have a truly global audience, and let us know what you're going through right now. I know it's a very, goodness me, curious time, isn't it? We've begun 2024 with quite a bang, with quite a few events happening, and I'm sure we're going to get into those tonight. In different parts throughout the broadcast. But welcome one and all. I know Jeff is just joining us here, so I shall bring him in just a second here as he adjusts his camera. But just an honor to be with you all. And those of you who are coming from different channels, welcome. We're streaming to Above Duality, Above and Beyond Duality, GFL Station, and I think Retooling the World, of course. So welcome wherever you come from. A note of importance, whatever you comment in the chat, keep it clean, keep it kind, as should be your MO in life, hopefully. Our beliefs that we share with you today do not have to be your beliefs. In fact, we welcome that you develop your own, and that's going to be an important sort of theme going into tonight, actually, as I bring Jeff in here. But welcome all of you. Bear with me. I'm just going to bring in Jeff Dunphy here. Okay. Evening, Jeff.
Hey. Hey, Dave.
How are you, my friend?
How are you? I'm having technical issues, but we're all good.
Okay. Well, bear with us, folks. It's all good. There's no rush. We'll just get things set up here. Let's just switch to a different angle here. Maybe this guy. Well, you're coming through loud and clear, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah. No, everything's good. I just have to set up my iPhone and facilitate stuff. That's all.
Okay.
Baby, you need to, sorry, put it tall. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out. It needs to be right here. I'm sorry, babe. Sorry. Excuse me.
Okay, well, for those of you who are just joining us, we have got a very exciting show tonight. Jeff is just getting his camera set up here, but we are going to be diving into a very powerful presentation, a dialogue on an up-and-coming semester of classes that Jeff has got coming up. Some of you may be familiar with them. I have taken these classes with Jeff, I think 4 times now, at least 3, maybe 4 times back to back. We're going to dive into what they all are and what it's all about very shortly. So I can attest to their potency of truth, their activating nature, and their stimulus really to help you go within. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about this tonight, because as we head into this year, it's certainly not going to slow down with a number of things, with revelations of what's been really going on in the world, some quite shocking truths that are going to be coming out. Some things that are going to shock us even in the Awake and Aware community, I believe. But there's also going to be sort of a lot of falling apart of old systems, old belief systems. And anyone watching this tonight, that may include you. I know it includes me. This journey of unfoldment is really just a group of perspective shifts as we let go of the things that are not serving us in the old paradigms, the old world, if you like, as we move towards creating a brand new earth. And that is no small undertaking. So, as I'm sure Jeff will say tonight, we take our journeys very seriously, but not personally. And I know that we are in a very heightened state of energy in the world, where getting triggered and getting frustrated about things and being around other humans who don't share our beliefs necessarily, maybe some of their family, is very challenging to do. So we ask you to be mindful. And these teachings tonight that we're going to go into for an upcoming semester of classes are definitely going to help with this for you as well as a number of other things. But Jeff, how are we doing here?
Well, David, can you see me?
No, you're. I can see Bimini. I can see Bimini in blue coat on the floor.
Well, Bimini's not even in here, so I'm having some technical challenges with clearly with my phone, and
Okay. Do you want to?
how like
There we go.
oh, there we go. Okay, there we go.
So I just need your wonderful face on there now.
How's that?
Lovely. There we go.
Okay.
Well, welcome, Jeff. Well, guys, we're going to jump into a presentation very shortly here, but I thought it'd be good just to start off the show with a little bit of an intro from Jeff, what work he's involved in right now, and why specifically it's important right now with this year that we've just started and we're heading into. It's going to be quite an interesting year. Why these teachings will be so beneficial this year. So, Jeff, do you want to just give us a little intro of that nature, my friend?
Well, suffice it to say, David, that I think we are in this very special place that would suggest that we are about to launch ourselves into an entirely new vibratory orbit. And with the likes of you and the likes of your help and your collaboration, and with the likes of everybody who's online, I think there's something very magic going on. Simultaneous to the magic going on, there's also a profound disruptive there's a disruptive energy going on where it's shattering the old manifestation of the control state, the state that controls us or renders us, for want of a better word, renders us disabled. And what we're about to do right now is to bring about a whole new stage of awakening. And this is big, and it's tumultuous, and it's profound, and it's also, there's a part of this that is a bit from the old status quo. It's a bit terrifying.
Yeah, indeed. And if you look at the any kind of news, even sort of news from those who are of the awaken aware crowd, quote unquote, you'd be forgiven to think that the world is about to fall into a big black hole, which is it is what it is. And as I always do, I encourage huge discernment with whatever things come into your path. There is a lot of information being flown around out there, and that's part of the tactics of the DF, as you will hear us talk about them in this way, the dark forces, if you want to extend that. But I know, Jeff, you and I are of the same belief that there are, as we look back, and if you know anything about the history of Earth, there have been rises and falls of humanity. And maybe we can provide a bit of assurance, at least from our convictions in this conversation. There are those of us in the Awaken Aware crowd who do think that there is, great cataclysm and perhaps a fall of humanity coming. Why do you think that this time humanity is going to rise? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, that's a great question. I do think one of the messages of the Great Pyramid in Giza is there's a cycle. We're going through cycles. The law of periodicity, and in this cycle, we're ending a 2,000-year Piscean cycle, and we're coming to the age of Aquarius. And in the age of Aquarius, the cycle is the era of believing, and the Aquarian age is the age of knowing. And that's a 2,000-year cycle. We're also coming full cycle into the precession of the equinox. And about 26,000 years ago, there was a great solar event, a great launch into a new orbit 26,000 years ago, 25,900 years ago. And we are there now. And the message from the pyramid is there's this time to look up and to be able to receive and wake up to this new launch. And one of the things that we're bidding people do is prepare yourself for a transition. Prepare yourself for being launched into a new vibratory realm, into a new way, into a new state of consciousness. Now, this doesn't happen very often. And during this time, there are those who are going to wake up to it and look up and receive and be receptive to this launch. And those are going to hide. And then once those hide, once this window closes, it's going to be another 20,000 years for you to get to this same in a new era. Mm-hmm. It's magic, profound, and it's also this space is transitional. The earth is in a place where we are about to give birth to a new era, and it's very magic, but it's also very discombobulating. That's a very profound, as David and I know, that's a very profound esoteric term, discombobulating.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And for those of you who don't know, I met Jeff a number of years ago, and we've shared many things since that meeting. And not probably the most profound for me has been getting involved with Jeff's work and the work that he's doing with this wonderful bride, Marie-Eve Bonneau, who I know we're going to get a snippet from tonight, I believe, in the presentation, not live, but recorded. And the teachings that Jeff has brought forth by working with a number of the masters and teachers over the years and his spiritual life that he presents to others is very, very, very relevant, very powerful, and it's made such a huge impact on my life, which is why I love doing these collaborations with you, Jeff. But do you want to talk a little bit about you have some very exciting classes coming up now? I think you mentioned that the old sort of semester or curriculum of spiritual teachings that you have been teaching for a number of years is about to transition. Now, can you talk a little bit about that? Is that in the next semester or is that the one after?
Well, I think the year 2024 is a year when we are preparing the earth and those who are receptive to the new teachings for a whole new level of teachings. Imagine, if you will, graduating from grade 1 to grade 12 in a year. Your capacity to understand stuff is quite expansionary. It's expansive. And so there's what's going to happen this year, and what we've been working on for hundreds of years is preparing for a whole new corpus of teachings. We've been working on the same teachings for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And we're now in that place where the next chapter is about to be launched. So the joy material that I've been teaching, David, for 30 some odd years, 35, 36 years, the joy material is going to morph, if you will, into a far more expansive, inclusionary way, because people's receptivity index is going to be augmented by tenfold or 100-fold. So it's a very time, and it's also a time when people's capacity infuse and synthesize and integrate these teachings is going to be launched into an entirely new orbit. So imagine, if you will, in this year, you used to be able to read a book one page at a time. Once this year has passed, and once this energetic field has been instigated into the planet, you'll be able to read a book and comprehend a book in as fast as you can see every page. So it's a very magic time, profound, and also transformatory.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen that movie Phenomenon with John Travolta? Have you seen that one?
Yes, indeed.
And he sort of has that, well, it comes from above, doesn't it? He gets that flash of an awakening.
Exactly. And I think there's one of the things that has transpired over the last couple of millennia or even more, is that we've been, for want of a better phrase, we've been dumbed down. And I think what's happening now is we're being awakened in a way where our capacity to comprehend and understand and integrate and synthesize is going to be vastly higher than it was historically. So, the cliche is we're actually going to get with the story. We're going to get with the evolution of mankind, and we're going to come into a space of, oh, I get it. This is a time of revelation where the lights get turned on, and when everybody looks around and goes, I see, I get it. The lights are turned on, and there's something here that is evident, and I choose to step in and step up, if you will, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. Well, let's dive in. Let's go straight into the presentation then. Do you want to give it a little intro as to what the presentation is drawing from? What have you got coming up that this is explaining?
Okay. So one of the things that happens 3 times a year is we have 3 semesters of a modern day mystery school. It is it's an introduction to the participants, a way to change the way you look at the world. And in the words of Wayne Dyer, as you know, David, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And what we're going to do is introduce you to a way to see things and to embrace things and to understand things in a whole different demeanor and manner. And this stuff has been taught for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. And what we're doing is we've contemporized it and we've put it into contemporary language. And we're now in this place of presenting it in a way where people can understand it and also launch themselves into a new way of being.
Hmm. Amazing. Well, let's jump straight in, Jeff. I'm going to bring up the deck here, and I'm going to minimize me in the background. I may chime in as we talked about, but let's just
Right.
okie dokie. So yeah, the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, let's go to the next slide.
We've already had that. Okay.
There we go. Yeah. So what we're doing, what our initiative is, everybody who's here, our initiative is to provide you with tools, retooling for our coming of age. This coming of age is a launch point. It's a point where we can step into a higher realm of learning, of knowing, of understanding, of comprehending. And we're retooling, we're providing tools that the ancients have given us for years. And we're doing it in a way where we can prepare those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. We can prepare you for this launching of the Aquarian age. Okay.
Hmm.
Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Now I slept and dreamt that life was joy, and I awoke and saw that life was service, and I acted, and behold, service was joy. So in my misspent youth, I was a professor at the University of Calgary in both the commerce side and in the engineering side. And I would posit to the students, if you could sit at the feet of any profoundly wise individual, whether it was whether it was Buddha or Lao Tzu or Jesus or any of the sages, and you could ask them one question, the answer to which would change your life forever, what would that be? And I would let this sit with them for days, like several days. And in this period of time, many were very engaged because it's a very provocative question. And they'd come back and they'd say, well, what's life all about? And da da da. They'd ask all kinds of questions, all of which were good. But the answer to this is, how can I be of service?
Hmm.
And when you recognize that you have an obligation to be of service to your brilliance, your genius, your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, your causal body, we call it in the ancient teachings, your brilliance, your soul. How can I be of service? How can I be of service to my children, to my partner, to my parents, to my community, to my society? How can I be of service? What a great question. And in that very provocative question lies the majesty of where we're going into this next era, this next time on the planet. And we have people who are interested in this next time, but there are also people who are involved and very drawn to wake up to their life purpose. And in the waking up to their life purpose, they find meaning. And it's a very interesting time. Very interesting time.
Mm,
So we'll,
amazing.
yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next.
Now this is a little quote that we have from Helen Keller, and it talks about happiness is not attained through self-gratification, but through fidelity to a worthy purpose. Now, if you are purposefully engaged in your purposeful life, you find fulfillment. And what we've been told by society, or rather by the official narrative, is the more you gratify yourself, the simple self, the happier you will be. But after another donut, after another chocolate bar, after another filet mignon, after another glass of wine, after another toke, after another, for want of phrase, after another piece of tail, after another, do you ever feel better? And the answer, generally speaking, is no.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happening right now is we're starting to see that there is a real call to action to prevent the official narrative by the DF, as David made reference to, by the official narrative, that self-gratification isn't the be-all and end-all. It's the empowerment of individuals around you in a manner that inspires them to make the world a better place. And you make the world a better place by making it better for everybody, not just for your little and selfish self.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important.
You know, it's curious as you talk. There, I know I've got to send you a whole bunch of Joel Goldsmith's books, which is on my agenda here. But in reading some of Joel's works this morning, it's very interesting because there has never been a lasting peace on Earth. There's never been a lasting harmony. There has always been pockets of it that come and go, and largely sort of long periods, especially with Earth humans, of disharmony because of the belief in two powers, because of the belief of a power outside of the Creator, outside of God, outside of the infinite and visible. And so, in order to move back into alignment and accomplish something which I don't think has ever been done before on the planet, which is very exciting, there's going to have to be so many new perspectives, new ways of thinking. And I know that one thing that Joy has done for me, that the Joy class material has done for me, was again just to help me shift my perspective on certain things, that because there's an open door over here and you're facing over here, suddenly there's the 1 degree shift and you're facing an open door, which of course is the next level of information, and there's no ceiling. But I wanted to add that in, Jeff, because it really has, if a spiritual teaching is worth its weight, it does two things. It addresses the direction of your search for truth back to you, which Joy does in abundance, and it sort of, no, that's the main thing. That's the main thing. Anyway, Karen, I wanted to add a couple of things in there.
Okay, next slide. Now, one of the things that I found incredibly comforting in the study of this material that I've been doing now for almost all of my life is that the ancient teachings talk about effectively an owner's manual? What if you actually had an owner's manual? And what they do is they actually teach that you do and that you have access to it. Can you imagine if you had an owner's manual? And this brings us back, and David has heard this many times, but it brings us back to this little story, and that is, you go to the doc and you say, "Doc, my tummy's upset. I'm bloated. I'm burping. I'm farting. Nobody likes to be around me. I don't know what's going on." And the doctor rolls your sleeve up and he gives you he pinpricks your skin to give you an allergy test. And he looks, it takes a few minutes, and he comes back and he goes, "Well, listen, it sounds like, or it actually looks like, my tests reveal that you're allergic to dairy." Oh, okay. So now what? Well, just leave it out. Get rid of milk, get rid of cheese and eggs and butter and all that. So just get rid of it for 6 weeks and see what happens. So, the guy comes back to the doc 6 weeks later. "So what's going on?" "Well, my tummy's okay. I'm not burping, not farting. I'm feeling really good. It seems like I'm digesting my food." The doctor says, "Well, you're allergic to dairy. What if you're allergic to thoughts? What if you're allergic to the official narrative that tells you you're not enough, you need to eat McDonald's hamburgers, in order for you to be happy, you need to have more and more and more of stuff that you don't care about?" Like, what if there's a whole bunch of thoughts out there that don't serve you? And one of the things that the joy material does is it teaches you how to differentiate between those thoughts that serve you and serve the greater good, which you are a part of, and those thoughts that disenfranchise you and differentiate you from everybody. David and I have said this on many occasions, and it's, if we were to take what the official narrative tells us in terms of the purple people and the orange people and the chartreuse people and the maroon people, they're all bad and we hate them, and they're not the you know the 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 other people. If your organs were to treat each other like that, you're bad, I'm good, you're not part of the gig. If your organs were to treat each other like that, you'd be dead by dinner. And the fact is, we are all one family. We are one family on this brilliant planet of ours. And there are things to be done by you, done better by you than anybody else in the world. And part of this is you waking up to that, and waking up to the aspiration that there is something to be done about this calamity, about this dilemma that's presenting itself to Earth. And the official narrative is completely contrary to what's in your best interest. And that is, we are one planetary family. We are cells of a body. And when we collaborate conscientiously and recognize that as go we, so go I, it will change the very fabric of our community, of our planet, and it will launch us into an entirely new vibratory realm. How's that sound?
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Okay, next.
Okay. So this is a picture of the mechanization, the manipulation, the machination, if you will, of how what's been orchestrated to make our minds go nuts, and who's driving the bus. There is an official narrative that makes us think certain things, and the official narrative is run by this little wanker in the middle of our brain. And in the course of this, we are very, very, very busy mentally, and we've lost the capacity to concentrate. We are a society that is bereft of the capacity to concentrate. Now, in keeping with this, in the one of the last classes that I was at the University of Calgary, I think I had some ungodly number of students in it, 185 or 188. But in this, I've brought into the classroom, I said, we're going to do a little experiment to see how well you can concentrate. And the experiment was, as David will remember because he's only heard this 10 times, right? But I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and an out breath through your mouth. And I want you to do that 3 times. But I want you to think only of your breath in and your breath out. That's all. And the second you start to think of anything else, I want you to raise your hand. And this is an auditorium of better part of 200 kids, 200 young adults. And after 10 or 15 seconds, every one of their hands was in the air. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the capacity to concentrate for 3 breaths. Now, even if a breath in and a breath out takes 5 seconds, none of them could concentrate for more than 15 seconds. That is shocking. Mm-hmm. And once we regain our capacity to concentrate and we regain the rightful embrace of our sovereignty, we will start to see our part in the divine design. And this is epic, and it's gobsmacking, and it's magic, but it's also elusive because we've lost the capacity to concentrate.
You know, I totally agree. We have, as you know, we have global mass meditations now every month. And invariably, when we're out in the world meeting people, we get into conversation about spirituality and what have you. And one of the biggest things is that, well, how do you meditate? I find it so difficult to turn my thoughts off. That is said to us ad infinitum by people. And I do think that everything, most of what we have here in the human life, of course, it bleeds into past lives, and we know that is learned. You've learned and you've taught yourself through whatever means to be distracted. And I believe personally that you can teach yourself how to become a focused individual. And like you say, Jeff, with all of this, it's so important to start practicing now, because if you think about when we're in the dream state, and Inception is a wonderful movie depicting some of this. When you think of something, it happens. When you think of a place, you're there. When you think of a person, it's there. Wherever your mind goes, it's instantaneous creation, because that particular dimensional construct is linked to your consciousness. So you create instantly. That's where we're going in everyday life. So do you think that concentration sort of gap that you mentioned, that can be learned and taught?
Without a doubt, it absolutely can. And I think one of the things that is, there's an underlying agenda by those who would misdirect us. There's an underlying agenda to make sure we don't pay attention, we don't concentrate, we don't have time to focus on anything, because there's this omnipresent force or energy that says don't pay attention. And once those who wake up enough to pay attention, you start to pay attention, you start to see things as they actually are, and you start to see things through eyes unclouded by your programming. And that's a very magic and very empowering position to be. Absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, let's continue.
Now we have this war of stories going on, and it's a very real war, right? And one side is trying to terrify us into destroying ourselves. We're going to have a new batch of creeping Badunga show up. So you got to be very careful, and you've got to take our healthcare officials' prognostications, and we have to take their directions without thinking. Don't think, just do. And then we've got the other side just trying to terrify us into saving ourselves. Now, part of the underlying premise behind all of the true agenda of waking up is, can you see what is, as opposed to seeing what you've been told to see? And one of the things that happens in this time is when you wake up to the true story, the true majesty of your own sovereign selves, it's very much like coming home. And when you come home to yourself, when you come home to realize and embrace the true majesty of your true essence, if you will. It's an epiphany. It's
Mm-hmm.
revelatory. It's magic. And it's awe-inspiring. And it's also very rare because very few people have actually slowed down enough to concentrate to actually see who they really are and appreciate who they really are, because there are things to be done by you, done better by you than anybody else in the world. And when you start to realize the true nature and the true fabric of your brilliance, it is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Extraordinary.
Indeed, indeed. Okay.
We have a war of those who would have us do what they want us to do, and what we think, know, intuit, resonate that the proper thing to do. And one of the ways that the powers that be get you to do what they want you to do is they scare you into doing it. Well, just do this. Don't ask questions. Just do this because everything will be better. So when they frighten you, they minimize or even completely deny your capacity to think. When you have the capacity to think outside of the masses, you start to realize that what they want you to do isn't in your own best interest, or in fact in anybody's best interest, but the powers that be. And so what they do is they say, you have complied by giving your consent to be manipulated. No more. We choose not to be manipulated by remaining calm and of sound mind, and looking through the hypnosis, looking through the nonsense, looking through the programming. And we stand up and say, no more. We will not comply to the tyranny of what's going on in the world, whatever it is. Eat food that is unnatural and so processed that it poisons us. Believe the machination of the mental programming that's going on in television. Believe mainstream media because they're telling you the truth. Believe the healthcare officials because they have your best interests at heart. All of these things are starting to come to light where they are not necessarily aligned at all. And so it's a very magic time to wake up, but it's also very tumultuous,
Mm-hmm.
and it smacks of change. It smacks of change without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is a simple thing that says the same people that sell the panic sell the pill. The fact is, um, we are we are seeing things change. People are waking up to things, and people are starting to recognize that the healthcare officials may not necessarily be telling us the truth behind their agenda. Let's go to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Aha. So can you activate that?
I don't think I can. No. Do you
Okay.
have that where you can play it into the mic somewhere?
Yes, I do, but you've got to give me a quick second,
No,
okay?
no, all good. No
Okay, I'll be
rush.
right back.
Okay. You're gonna love this. I know you are. We will do a Q&A at the end, guys. There will be more information on how to get hold of Jeff, how to enroll for the next coming course, etc. at the end. So stick around for that. But yeah, if you do have any questions that are on your mind right now, maybe it's about your spiritual journey, maybe you think it's a question that will help the collective with everyone watching tonight, please do prepare it, get it ready, and post it in all caps so I can see it in the live chat, and we will have a Q&A at the end here.
Okay. Let me see if we get this up,
Okay.
David.
Sounds good.
My apologies. We've got okay. Okay. Uh, bear with me.
It's all good. And when this comes on, folks, I invite you to close your eyes when we have it playing and just absorb from that space.
Okay. Oh, David.
I can also try and find this one. I think you may have sent this to me on another occasion, maybe. I want to move this guy out of the way. Let's see now. I may have this, Jeff, somewhere lurking. Hold on. Let's have a looky.
Ah, okay. Okay, I think I found it, David.
Okay.
No matter how far you've traveled in circles on other people's detours,
Can you hear it?
Yep.
adopted
Perfect.
as your own, regardless of how much time you may feel you've wasted playing small or hiding away. In spite of the static that may pervade the space between you and the naked truth of your being, you are here to be a gift. You came into this world carrying a flame that cannot be extinguished. It is the same light that lives at the center of all things. To be here now means that you carry a secret ingredient in your depths that is needed by the soul of the world. You are the only one who brings what you bring in the exact way that you bring it. Hidden within you is a balm of renewal, the sacred imagining of new way, a golden thread woven by the hand of God. You carry an ancient key that cannot be warped by time or distorted by the heat of a world gone mad. At your innermost core echoes the resounding answer to our time's most pressing questions. Within you lives a treasure that awaits, not your voyage of discovery to distant lands, but your stillness and sinking into the rich ground of your being. Entry will cost you no less than everything inauthentic. You may have to burn your house to the ground before you can see the stars. At the deepest root, you'll find a spring dripping nectar, the pilot light of your existence, a north star closer to you than the sound of your own heart beating, a divine spark tenderly aching for its liberation. It is the light of your inimitable gift, waiting to be given to the world it was always destined for.
That's pretty magic, okay?
Magic, magic, magic. Will cost you nothing less than everything inauthentic. Was that is the or in a line, whatever that line was.
Pretty
Amazing.
magic line, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, next.
So in this slide, everyone, we want to talk about imagine a world in which everyone is conscientious, caring, and responsible. Imagine a place, and this is very much the theme of this coming era. And it is an era where you look upon others as they are your responsibility to allowing them to flourish. You want for everyone else their best interests. You care about them deeply, not unlike a parent caring about children, but also or siblings caring about one another. But you wish for everybody around you to flourish. The gift you're destined to be will cost you nothing less than everything inauthentic. Great line, as David just pointed out. I mean, there's something very magic about this time. It's a time of waking up. It's a time of remembering the gift that you are destined to be. And remember that you are all meant to be danced. You are all meant to be enjoyed. You are all meant to flourish, to prosper, and to bring to bear the gifts you have to the world. And we live right now in a world that is bereft of awareness, bereft of consciousness, bereft of true meaning, because we are just still staggering in the stupor of the hypnosis. So it is a time now to step up. And as the slide says, do no harm, but take no shit. Right? And I think one of the things that's happening right now is we're starting to rise up and we're starting to say, I will not comply with the tyranny of the state, of the medical community, of the unelected healthcare officials. I'm standing here in my own sovereign right saying, it is myself and I alone who knows what is best for me, and not an imposition by the heavy-handed, misdirected sociology of the world.
You know, it's going to be a crazy year, I think. There's so much unfolding, of course, as we know, and there has already. But it's sort of like it's like the king has been dethroned in a movie, isn't it? And his reign of terror has fallen apart. No one's really listening to him anymore. His guards aren't doing his bidding. And he's sort of screaming in his throne room to his guards to do things and murder people and all this stuff. And that's sort of what we're seeing in the DF, isn't it? They're sort of scrambling in almost outlandish ways. I know that video you sent me earlier on today, Jeff. I mean, some of the language in that, it made me laugh for obvious reasons, but
Yeah.
you're sort of seeing the death throes of this dark crowd. It's very, very curious to observe.
Yeah. And David brings up a really good point, and I sort of want to elucidate it just yet again, and that's this. Imagine, if you will, we're playing a chess game, and there's only 5 moves left or 6 moves left. Now, both of the participants in the chess game know the game of chess well enough to know that the bad guys have lost and the good guys have won, but there's still 5 moves to play. Now, the good guys see the chessboard and the bad guys see the chessboard, and the bad guys look at the good guys and go, I'm done. Like, the bad guys know they've lost, and the good guys know they've won, subject to the fact they don't do something ridiculously silly. But what the bad guys are doing is, instead of going, okay, mea culpa, I'm done, you got me, I'm out of this, I might as well just give up now, they're saying, up your skirt, you good guys, I'm going to still play out my last moves, even if it means scorch earth, even if it means false flags, even if it means a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to take my last 5 moves and do whatever outrageous, outlandish, terrible things. I'm going to still carry out my agenda. And you're going to have to take a move that's going to counter that agenda. Everybody knows the game is over, but everybody's watching as things fall apart. And this is what is going on right now. And it's extraordinarily disruptive. It's full of angst, it's full of upset, it's full of uncertainty, but it's also it would seem as if it is inevitable that the good guys will win, and that's a magic thing. That's a magic.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
So the more quiet you become, the more you hear. I would bid you, each and every one of you who's participating in this, set aside a little time so that you can get quiet and still your thoughts. Just for a moment, just get quiet. Some people find that when you get into the tub and you plug your ears, you put earplugs in, and you get into the water, you can find some silence. Some people find that sleeping with earplugs makes a difference. But there's something very important about finding silence that will serve you really well. And I would bid you do that. Okay.
You know, I started practicing with Kelly and I got these, I think, when we first moved here. And it's very quiet here, but I just wanted to sort of have the completely no sound immersive meditation experience. So I got those ear defenders, about $30 from Amazon. They're proper pro, like shooting ones, and they really do a great job of cutting out all the noise. I encourage people to actually to get a pair of those, especially if you live in a very urban setting where there are roads and maybe neighbors and what have you. They're very effective. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And we've got Dr. Strange Doom saying, "I'm from the city. What is quiet?" You're right. I mean, plug your ears, figure out what quiet is, because it will serve you really well. And then you can also start to hear other things, other realms, which is important.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have an education system that is effectively falling apart. We have many avenues of education, many avenues of insight that bring us that bring us to a place that recognizes that the education system was brought in by the Prussians and propagated by the Rockefellers, and it's all done to create an environment where students are taught what to think, not how to think, and they're just taught to obey. And this whole new era is going to be, and we will be, David and I will be part of the initiative to create a whole new era of education in this new Aquarian age, and it's going to be magic. And this slide says, for those of you, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same test. So please climb that tree, and you've got a chimpanzee, you've got you've got an elephant, you've got a fish, and you've got a dog. And Einstein actually said this, that everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Well, how many of you from a very young age were taught that you weren't smart enough, whatever it is, in whatever it is? And the fact is, you are all extraordinary individuals, and the whole process of waking up is to understand how the indoctrination, as somebody pointed out, how the indoctrination works against you. It stupefies you. It kind of dumbs you down, and you are all brilliant. You just have a different expressive nature of your brilliance. Okay.
Hold on 2 seconds, Jeff. I wanted to just quickly find, before we go to the next slide, someone asked me what that brand of ear defenders was. I'll give you the ones that I use, guys. I'll just find out on Amazon. I'll pop a link in the description to what ear defenders I use at the end of the slideshow.
So now this is, unfortunately, we can't show it because it doesn't translate very well. This is a 5-year-old playing Mozart brilliantly, all of which, the parents are sitting around. The parents are sitting around agog at how brilliant this 5-year-old is playing a piano. And part of this, the expose on this is, we are all geniuses. This child expresses his genius through music, and as a 5-year-old, he hasn't practiced for 25 years to get good at this. He came out into the world as a very adept musician. And I think it's important to recognize that everybody has this within them. It just expresses itself differently through each and every one of us. And to think that you aren't brilliant, that you don't have a purpose, is, is in essence kind of a form of blasphemy. And you need to remember that you are God personified in this package that you have chosen to enrich and enliven.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's very funny. You know me, Jeff, by now. I quote so many movies. I know we do back and forth a little bit as well. The If you pay attention to one particular thing, especially in the Marvel movies, but not exclusive to, when there is a sort of direct battle between the hero and the protagonist. You know, the maybe the Thanos, the evil villain, and the hero. If you notice, the first thing that the villain does, they try and get in the other person's head that they're not worthy, they're not good enough, they're not powerful enough. They try and get that person back to their traditional programming of unworthiness. And it's very interesting to see that play out actually in the world. Because, yes, I mean, the only power that the DF have is to distract us from realizing who we really are. Ultimately, of course, it manifests in lots of different ways. But that's the point you made, Jeff, is so important, because when we really do truly realize who we are unstoppable. And it's a very powerful, sobering fact.
You're absolutely right. You nailed it on the head. And I think that's very astute, because we can see it manifest in the movies that are being presented, right? That you can tear down an opponent by plugging them into their feelings of insecurity, of not enoughness, of all of that stuff, all of which is propagated and indoctrinated into us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in every hero movie. It's quite interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here's a slide that I want you to take a peek at and look at, because depending on which angle you look at, every single one of these perspectives is true, right? There's a square, there's a circle, and there's a triangle, right? And there is nothing you cannot change but for a change in perspective. And I think that's very important. Are you seeing things with eyes unclouded by longing? And one of the things that's happening right now, as we speak of more and more, is there's the nature of cognitive dissonance. Whoa, just a second. This doesn't match what I've been told to believe. So it flies in the face of what I think is real. So many people will just say, well, I'm going to ignore it then. I'm going to stick my head in the sand. And this is it's a magic time, but it's also tumultuous and upsetting, because imagine, if you will, you've lived your entire life thinking that the medical community is invested in keeping you safe and well and healthy, and you start to realize that maybe that isn't the case. Maybe they've all been bamboozled into thinking that your welfare and your health and your well-being is not being taken care of. And many in the medical community are coming to that realization that I thought I was doing good in what I was being told to do, and now I realize that that isn't the case. And this, more and more of this is coming to light. So there's something about the perspective that you see, and there's something about examining filters through which you see the world, and that's very important to do, right?
Mm.
Now, this is a quote from George Bernard Shaw, and it's all great truths begin as blasphemies, right? I mean, we had who was it that Galileo was almost sent to the gallows for suggesting that the Earth was not the center of the universe. And there's this place in this time of revelation, in this time of revelation, where we might need to suspend disbelief for a minute. We might need to be able to say, well, maybe what's being said, I can entertain it, even though another thing that is being said contradicts it. And so there are things happening right now where two disparate ideas are being propagated, both of which do not agree with each other, but both of which need to, at the very least, be given an audience. And then we can actually allow ourselves to see with unclouded by longing what's really happening, what's really being presented, what's really happening, like what we can see, when we can see through the veils, the lies, and the official narrative, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Did you see? I mean, it's related, I guess. Did you see the story of those two ETs that appeared in the Miami Mall? Did you see that?
Yes, yes, indeed.
I mean, that's kind of interesting. It's been an interesting year so far. Maybe we'll come to that at the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We definitely, it's worth the trouble.
I'm sure there were a few blasphemies when that happened. Okay.
Exactly. So in the work that we do, as David well knows, I mean, we follow the work of a guy named Doc Hawkins. His name is David Hawkins. He had a medical degree and a PhD, and he was a brilliant, brilliant man. And we've been working with his work for a long, long time. And his agenda is to calibrate and recognize where various emotions and various states of consciousness resonate on a field of vibration. And as you see, enlightenment, peace, and joy are all at the very top of the scale, and shame, guilt, and apathy are all on the bottom. And how do they manipulate you? By shame and guilt and apathy. So there's some insight there that I think is telling, and it's again part of the work we do in this joy class that we're about to begin coming Monday, and we beckon you and we invite you in and to participate in this, because it's a modern day mystery school, and it's also timely in that we need to engage in this awakening movement, and we need to engage with under the guise of the ancient teachers, the ancient sages, because it's a very magic time, and all of this knowledge and all of this wisdom is there for the taking. It's there for you, and we would bid you participate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to reiterate, like we wouldn't be doing this collaboration if I didn't fully endorse Jeff's courses, teachings, wisdoms. They are absolutely fantastic, first grade, and I have taken his semesters a number of times back to back. I think it's 4 now, 3 or 4, and I know they're about to shift into a whole different paradigm, which is very exciting. But I highly recommend you joining, guys, and there'll be more information about how to do that very shortly. Okay, DK.
Okay, so we're going to introduce you to a group of individuals who have walked the earth and who are wisdom keepers and wisdom bearers and wisdom dispensers. This is Dwal Kul, and Dwal Kul he's also referred to as the Tibetan, and he has been instrumental in writing books and dispensing information and wisdom over the years. And he's acted with various participants, various receptive individuals who've helped him in the dissemination of the wisdom that he's been moving. And this next slide.
Can you, before we go on to the next one, can you tell the story of when DK came to that student before class?
Yes. In fact, Aaron was here in the live class we had the other day. This is a great story. And Aaron was a friend of somebody, one of my students. And Aaron was a seller of gemstones, and he sold me a great big tall amethyst cathedral that was very magic. And he and I had transacted in that arena, and he showed up in my house, and he came to transact on another thing. And he came in and he saw DK's picture over my mantle in my office, and he said, he just presented himself to me in Superstore, believe it or not. And I was sort of shocked to see this, and he looked at me and smiled, and then not a half an hour later, I'm in your place, and there he is looking back at me. What do you do? What's going on? And I said, well, I'm a teacher of the ancient wisdoms, and he is one of my teachers. What do you think? He said, I'm in. Count me in. I want to join. I want to, like, when does class start? And so he's been with me now for 7 years, I suspect.
Amazing. I I don't doubt that happened, and many of you have had all kinds of esoteric experiences like this. I know probably all of us have watching have had something, but this happens, guys. This is real, amazing.
Exactly. So this is Helena Blavatsky, and Helena Blavatsky is one of the great participants in the world of disclosure. In that, and she went and played. This is again Dr. Strange Doom saying Mahatmas exist. She started to play with and dance with these masters, with Dwal Kul, with Kuthumi, with Moria, and with Saint Germain, and also with Serapis Bey. And she was instrumental in writing books with these individuals, with the guidance of and the direction of these individuals, these sages, these masters. And she wrote the two tomes that she wrote, that were thousands of pages, were Isis Unveiled and The Secret Doctrine. And in those, she wrote them and published them in the late 1800s, in 1870 and in and around 1870s. She wrote Isis Unveiled and also The Secret Doctrine. And they kind of turned the intellectual world on its ear, because what she said is, yes, all religions carry within them a golden thread of truth. But for them to say they're exclusive and they have it all is nonsense. They're all a part of a more ancient golden thread of truth. And here it is. And then she laid it out. Magic books. And again, was very instrumental in bringing about and planting the seeds of this time of revelation. Mm-hmm. Magic.
Yeah, I've got Isis and Veil downstairs, and I know you've got them in the library. Amazing.
Now, this is Alice Bailey, and Dwal Kul, who you saw a couple slides ago. He showed up to Alice in the early 1900s, and he said, "Would you collaborate with me to write a series of books that will be instrumental in waking mankind up, humankind up? Would you help me?" And she went, "Well, I'm not sure. And what about, I don't know about this medium stuff, and I don't know about." And he said, "Listen, just help me for a bit." And so they wrote a paragraph, and then they wrote a couple paragraphs together, and then they wrote a chapter together. And Alice said, "Yeah, I'm in. Count me in." And so she wrote with him over the next few years, 25 or 30 years. She wrote with him 18 books together. And this is the Alice Bailey books that were, she became the amanuensis for Dwal Kul. And that was a very magic period in the early 1900s. And then on the next slide, this is one of my teachers, and her name is Dorothy Gates. Now, she was approached when she was a very young child, when she was 9 or 10 years old, by one of the Mahatmas, as Dr. Strange Doom said, as one of the Mahatmas. She was approached by one of these, and she was given the task of, again, contemporizing some of the ancient teachings. And so I traveled all over the world with her. I went to India and Egypt and Peru and various places in the world. And she was a very gifted and an adept teacher who we did some very magic stuff with.
Amazing.
Yeah. Now, this is Douglas Baker on the right, obviously. And Douglas Baker, is, he was born in 1922. He was orphaned at 16. I was orphaned at 16, effectively. And so he joined the army. He was a Brit. He was born in South Africa. He joined the British Army as a 16-year-old. Back in those days, they actually let you. Crazy. And he fought in the Second World War. And he had a very eclectic life. And he was very connected. And he was doing some work out of a book called the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. He was doing some work, and lo and behold, Dwal Kul pitched up to him as well when he was on retreat, and it was very magic. Now, sitting next to him is a woman named Kamla Dutt Lai, and Kamla was an Indian physician who was a very advanced yogi who was very, very good friends with DB, with Douglas Baker, and the two of them did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of workshops together. There was some, so again, some very interesting stuff that went on with them, and it turned out that Kamla, I had come to England to do some work with Douglas Baker and his organization, and in fact, when Douglas died in November of 11, I was in England a couple of years later, and they asked me to take over his work, take over his college, take over his work, and it was at that point in time when I met Kamla, and in this next slide, you'll see the two of us. So when we met, she happened to be, get a load of this, she happened to be the grandmother of my son-in-law. And so when I was in London, the family invited me over for dinner, and she and I looked at each other like long lost friends, pals, soulmates. It was very magic. And she looked at me and she wagged her finger and she said, "I know you." And we talked. I was there for hours, and it was like it was like remembering and refreshing an old ancient friendship. It was magic. She was a very magic and gifted individual. She was probably 90 or 91 in this slide, but it was a very vibrant, very magic time.
Soul connections. Yeah, amazing.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Wow.
So what are the joy offerings? The joy offerings manifest the law of paradox in bringing about an understanding of how to see the world differently. And they do this by telling you disparate or confusing precepts. And these precepts are, in order to be selfless, you have to be selfish. But in order to be selfish, you have to be selfless. Stuff like that. And they don't make sense. But when you actually start to noodle on them, when you actually start to think upon them, when you actually start to engage the contemplative part of your mind, they then start to make sense. And what we do is we gather in a group, and we gather once a week on Monday evenings. And I've been teaching in Australia for literally for 12 years now. I teach in England. I have various classes in various places, but we get together all over North America now. This is what we're trying to implement right now. And we get together and we say, what is it about this precept that the masters want us to learn, want us to glean? And then we leave it. We just leave it in the room, and people get insights. They have epiphanies about what these precepts mean, and David has experienced this. And it's a very magic process. And we do this collaboratively, and we do this in a group format. And I'm not here to tell you what they mean. I'm here to hold space so your understanding of them becomes clearer and clearer as you work on them. So this is a big thing, right?
It's amazing. It's sort of like the tree of life comes alive in those classes, and the divine starts to move through everyone, and everyone's so different. Everyone's got something different to share and absorbs things a little bit different, but there is such a unification of truth moving through it. It's amazing, really amazing.
It is very magic. Now, in my misspent youth, I brought many people on tours of the south of France, of Turkey, the various places, and we were involved. My late wife and I were involved in the aromatherapy business. So we are in a lavender field here. And what I would do, this slide says, learning is remembering, and teaching is helping one to remember. One of the things, and David will attest to this, one of the things that happens when you learn these joy offerings, when you get exposed to these precepts, you go, this seems so familiar. This seems so familiar. And it is, it strikes you as something that you've kind of known all along, and you're just kind of remembering it. And one of the things that we did in this field, one of the things that I did with many, if not all of the participants, is I'd say, listen, what do you hear? What do you hear? They'd be in this wonderful field of lavender, which was profoundly fragrant and lovely. And they'd go, I don't hear anything. I don't hear it. And then they'd go, oh, just a second. and they'd hear zzz, they'd hear the buzzing of the bees. They'd hear the buzzing of the bees, and you could see their eyes light up, and their eyes would light up. "Oh, I didn't hear it before." And once you hear the bees buzzing, you can't not hear it. And it was a very magic time. And one of the things that happens with this joy material is once you get it, once it resonates with it, you go, wow, I hear it, I get it. I get a sense, I remember it. And it's a very magic way, isn't it, David?
It is, yeah. It's sort of, it's exactly that. I mean, you can narrate the experience, but you really have to be part of it. It's like you, the key to this sacred book just turns, and you unlock a whole new things that are familiar, new, perplexing. It's just amazing, and very familiar as well, as you mentioned. The familiarity piece is quite, it's quite puzzling actually. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. It certainly transcends the intellect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Okay, we investigate the mysteries of the mind using ancient techniques and using a term called Gnosticism. Gnosticism is the root of knowing, knowledge, and that's what we do in Joy class. Next.
Okay.
So this is part of the journey as we start to recognize that our packaging, our egoic packaging, or our personality isn't who we are. It's an instrument through which our brilliance presents itself. But because it is an instrument and because it is a package, it has foibles, it has filters, it has proclivities. So it isn't a clear, perfect package. It is subject to its own filters, its own indoctrinations, it's interesting. So there's a majesty to it, but we also have to remember that we're not our ego, we're not our personality. Our personality is kind of like a piano or kind of like an automobile. We aren't the car, but we drive the car. And our brilliance or our soul or our genius is the one that embodies it and expresses itself through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. It's absolutely good.
Mm-hmm.
So the keys to consciousness that many have, excuse me, the keys to consciousness that we propagate is meditation, getting quiet, as we saw in a previous slide, study, what is it, reading some of these magic books that have been written, and service. And remember, we presented to this great auditorium of students how to be of service. And how can you be of service to your body, to yourself, to your emotions, to your mind, to your brilliance, to your genius, to the God within you, to your children, to your partner, to your parents, all of these things. This is all a part of being of service. And in this time, assembled in a series of books called the Teachings of the Law of One, is when you can become in service to others, in service to the gang, to the group, to the collective, you step into a whole new realm of reality. And it's a very magic time. And the keys to consciousness revolve around those three pillars: meditation, study, and service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to tend to cosmic laws, hermetic principles. The fabric of the teachings that we do here are Egyptian and Tibetan, and they kind of vacillate between Egypt and Tibet. And Egypt we would say is probably the mother of all religions. The Druids, where Merlin came from, may very well be the father, but the Tibetan Buddhism, the Tibetan wisdom is of a profound nature as well, and it's something that we choose to propagate. Esoteric science. What does esoteric mean? esoteric means it means that which is subject to true understanding by those who are kind of in the know. When you understand that the spectrum of light is visible, that is visible on 1,000 different levels, the eyeballs can only see 25 different levels. So there's a whole bunch, there's 900 or 975 different levels of light that cannot be seen by the eyes. That would be esoteric information. Same with hearing, same with all of that stuff. So, I was describing this to a geologist the other day, and when you talk geological terms between two geologists, and you're not a geologist, you're listening to that, that's an esoteric conversation because the geologists understand what they're talking about. As David and I have spoken of the financial world, when we talk about financial terms between each other, people would go, what's a tranche? What are bips? What's a spread? What's a call and a put? When you don't understand that, it doesn't mean it's secret. It just means it belongs in a vocabulary that you just don't get yet. And it's one of the things that we do in the joy material is we disclose, we show you what the esoteric sciences are. And we also deal very much with symbology. What do these symbols mean? How is it that what does it mean when you see 11:11 or 12:34 or 5:55? What all of these things is part of the universe sort of winking at you, going, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Joy class begins this Monday. So in 5 days, on the Monday the 15th. We begin from 7 to 9 Mountain Time, and it goes for 12 consecutive Mondays. And we do it live. We'll have 10 or 20 people here live, and we also do it via Zoom. And what we're doing is we're inviting you into something that is very magic. It's life-changing. And I think it's fair to say, and David will attest, it actually changes the very way and manner in which you view the world. And we also record these recordings so that you can visit them if you cannot attend live. Okay, and it goes for 12 weeks. This has been I've been teaching this for over 3 decades, and it's time that we expand our student body, and it's time for this to be taken up in some manner that speaks to its import. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's very curious to think about the spiritual truths and how these incredible masters, of course, they don't call themselves masters, we call them ascended masters, but these wonderful enlightened ones like DK, like Babaji, like Jeshua, like Saint Germain, etc., they have kept the light going for millennia when, iterations of humanity have died out, truths have almost been lost, a wisp on the wind and they're gone. But they've come to humanity just to keep them alive. Always had very few followers, even Jeshua, very few adopters of the truth. But the truth and the light has prevailed. And now here we are in these times, sort of holding up our candles to the main flame to be lit again. And I think it's a wonderful responsibility. It's a wonderful privilege to be involved in the work. It really is.
David, I mean, no truer words have been spoken. And I also think one of the things that has been given us and certainly relayed to us in this time is there are things fomenting right now that are percolating, that are being created, where those participants in this great time of awakening are going to be not only witness to, but also be participants in a great, profound illumination or expansive consciousness. And also with that comes these great capabilities that are going to come with this expanse of consciousness, and it's going to be a very, very magic time. Clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. We're going to be clairaudience. We're going there. We're stepping into a place where, in a very short period of time, telepathy is going to be realized by a whole group of individuals who are so aligned, who are so ready to be activated. And this is a very, very magic time, and it's been spoken of for eons and eons and eons about this time when everybody wakes up. And imagine, if you will, the capacity to be telepathic, the capacity to have the capacity to teleport, that like all of these very magic, wonderful skills that have been spoken of and written of and even witnessed by some participants on the journey, they're going to be yours for the taking, and yours for the opportunity to utilize in order to help this great awakening. Magic time.
Amazing. Yeah, I totally agree.
These are the courses that we have over the course of our time been propagating: the art of being, esoteric astrology, the wisdom for a world gone mad. And on the next slide, there's a whole bunch of others. We also have an Egyptian mystery school where we welcome you to Egypt, and we teach you a little bit about magic. We teach you about the ascended master Saint Germain, or Serapis Bey, who is the Lord of Ascension, and this is part of the ascension process. The healing clinic we have each week. We have the last time I counted, we had 19 different modalities of what I've learned throughout the various sacred spots around the world that I've been taught in. And it's getting busier and busier, as you can appreciate and imagine, as the things are being brought to light. Things are being brought to light in order for them to be dismissed and discharged and disempowered, if you will. And so we do that. And the bottom slide, which is pretty hard to see, but it talks about, and this is again one of the things that Doc Hawkins brings us, it becomes clear that to truly know is to be, not to know about. This isn't an intellectual journey, even though you need an intellect to indulge in it, but there's something to this journey that transcends the intellect. And as David will attest, you don't have to be brilliant or smart or loquacious or well-read to do this. What you need to be is attentive. You need to be able to pay attention. And there's something in the fabric of these ancient teachings that you can feel. And that's a very magic place. And we bid you, come and join us. Come and join us. This is yours. All of this stuff is yours. It's your rightful heritage. And part of this is joining a community, a global community of people who wish to wake up and participate in this magic time. Now, it's a challenging time, and it's a disruptive time, and it is, depending on how you choose to look at it, it could be frightening, but it's also enervating and invigorating and of profound importance. And all of you chose to be here at this time. And somebody said I'm 79. Guess what? With what's coming, the information that's coming, the disclosure that's coming, the technology that has yet to be disclosed but is absolutely real, a 79-year-old has another 100 years to live, and believe that. Absolutely believe that. That's a very valid declaration. And DB talked about it. All of the masters talk about it. Imagine, if you will, all of you have another 100 or 200 years to live. Let's not view that as nonsense, because there's a can you dispel disbelief, right? Can you suspend disbelief just for a moment? There are technologies available today that have yet to be disclosed that are capable of elongating your life, something profound. So this is a very magic time, and I would bid you join us.
Amazing.
Who's ready to dive in? Who's ready to dive in? This was in the Aegean Sea, you know? And this is another slide that says, God does not call the qualified, but God qualifies the called. Qualifies the called. And we would bid you, come, step up, be a part of the initiative to contribute to the emancipation of mankind. Now, this is a very important slide, and David, again, will attest, as he's done many times throughout this presentation. Hey, David, what happens when you start to see things differently? Your world changes. Your world changes. You look at things through different eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of it that is a bit disconcerting, because we're kind of invested in seeing things a certain way. And when you start to change the way you see things, or as Wayne Dyer would say, is you start to change, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, and it does happen. And it also happens in our own self-perception. We start to see things about ourselves that is very illuminating. Some part of us it's upsetting. Some part of it it's wonderful, it's brilliant, it's extraordinary.
Yes, it is absolutely all of the above and more. There was Kelly went for a lunch with a friend of ours yesterday, who's sort of a perpetual walk-in, as she would say. And when you take courses like this, when you go through these awakenings, it's sort of like we are these walk-ins every time. When you imbue your consciousness with new truth, you, depending on sort of your stage of unfoldment, sometimes it can just literally catapult you out of all these old things and old places, maybe even old people that you used to spend time with, and you sort of become this new person. So there is in some degree a terrifying, fearful nature of this, and we've all gone through this in our spiritual unfoldment. And one thing I love about the community is we're all sort of going through this play of evolvement together. This is very much a sort of a truth serum in consciousness every week, and once you start expanding, there's no going back.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Okay, last slide.
So the next steps. Okay, we have the website. You can go to the website retoolingtheworld.com. You can reach out to me, as David will have in here. We bid you join us to start the momentum and start and become a part of the initiative to wake the planet up. This is a very magic time. We know that it is divinely directed, and we know it is being participated in all sorts of realms. And this is again a very profound calling, if you will. If you're called, jump in, dive in. It's something that's extraordinarily magic. And I think, David, we probably need to open the floor for questions now, if that.
Let's do that. Yeah, someone had asked how much it costs. I mean, having done the material, gone through the amazing semesters 3 or 4 times, I would guess that you'd be paying $1,000 to $5,000 for a course like this, but it's $269 Canadian, which is ridiculous for the value you get, which is about $22 a class, which is, to say it's reasonable is ridiculous. I don't have to sell it. So it's well worth it, guys, for what you get. You, at the very least, you dive into this incredible community. I've got lifelong friends now, certainly in you, Jeff, and in a number of others from the Lamasery that I visited live with the live classes. You just get so much from this, so it's very, very worth it. Get in touch with Jeff, retoolingtheworld@gmail.com. All his links are in the description below in every channel. They're also on the ticker tape on the screen. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, please do. There's a couple I'm going to scroll up in the chat right now, but if you've got any questions for Jeff or in general about maybe your spiritual journey, please put them in all caps now, and we'll have a little 5-10 minute Q&A before before we sign off. So I'm just going to go up and Sandra, Nassim Haramein published his first paper that unifies the field. Nobel Prize. Amazing. Yeah, I love Nassim. He's great.
Nassim Haramein is again another one of those gifted individuals who is driven by his divine directives. He's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And his quantum physics and his approach to things is profoundly illuminating. A brilliant, brilliant contributor.
Agreed. There were a couple of initial questions. Hold on a second. Yeah, put them in all caps, please, my friends. Okay. I don't really like that question. Okay, Annika asks, how can we get rid of all the programming? You want to tackle that one, Jeff?
Okay, so one of the things that is unfortunately true is that we are subject to programming 24/7, and getting rid of it isn't so much the agenda, but it's becoming aware of where the program wants you to go. And once you wake up to the programming, it becomes evident. You start to see it. And there's a Saturday Night Live skit that happened decades ago, but it was a skit on a subliminal programming expertise. And the guy's a salesman, and he comes in and he sits down in front of the secretary. It's very funny, and he comes in and looks at the secretary and he goes, "Hello, Dolores, I want to go see your boss." And then he goes, "Hot sex." Just under his breath, right? And he looks at the secretary and he goes, "Yeah, I just want to go see the boss. Could you see to get me hot sex?" And he says hot sex 2 or 3 times, and then goes in to see the boss, and he goes, "Hey, Bob, it's lovely to see you. Big raise." And then he just keeps throwing these little things in. And Bob, I just wanted to let you know how much I enjoy working here. Big raise. And Bob, I want to think that we're doing really well. Free car, or car allowance, or whatever. And then at the end of the skit, the boss goes, "Gee, Joe, I need to give you a big raise, and I need to give you a car." And then he goes out into the room where the secretary is, and she looks at him and goes, "I think we need to have hot sex right now." I mean, it's a game. It was just this comedic thing, and it's very funny. But in the same breath, as soon as you start to see through the programming, and a wonderful truth teller and a guy who does great exposés. His name is James Corbett, the Corbett Report. He does wonderful exposés on propaganda and how to see through it. And he has been doing this for a long time. He's got 400 or 500 episodes. He is an absolute, and he's a Calgarian, believe it or not, David, who moved to Japan to teach Japanese, met a Japanese woman, married, and he now lives in Japan. But he's extraordinary, and he's very highly regarded in those in the community of true world servers, light bearers. Absolutely brilliant. James Corbett, the Corbett Report. Enough good things about him.
Yeah, amazing. To tack onto that, I think, absolutely everything you said, Jeff, is brilliant. It's easy to get caught up in trying to address what's wrong and what is maybe not aligned with whatever the subject may be. In this case, it's sort of programming. Kelly did a really cool video. She ripped it off someone else, actually, but she sort of rehashed it on... you can go over to our Instagram after this, but there's a jug of water and it's full of dirt. And you can get a spoon and keep trying to pull the dirt out. But what actually, 2 things happen. It just takes an age. It's completely inefficient. And you also actually make the water more muddy because you blend it in more without doing that. So really the secret to becoming more aware, let's say, of the programming is to pour more of the good stuff in. Yeah. And the only way to get the bad stuff out, really, you got to address it, don't get me wrong, but it's to pour the good stuff in and to make that your focus. And the more you do that, the more the programming becomes, it's sort of like an esoteric bell, isn't it, Jeff? You smell it a mile off.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, there's a pretty simple adage is the shadows cannot hide in the light. And one of the ways that the propaganda, one of the ways that the indoctrination has come in is that they've come in the shadows. They've come in hidden, secretive. And now when people are starting to point it out and to make it apparent, the subliminal stuff that's coming in, when it gets pointed out, you see it and notice it, and then all of a sudden it no longer has the charge. It no longer has the effect. So this is
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and that's why you see nothing is really able to take right now, because there's so many people who are seeing through it. How do I contact you, Georgia? Retoolingtheworld@gmail.com. It's in the ticker tape below, or it's in one of the description links in the video, wherever you're coming from, whichever channel. I don't think there's any more questions, Jeff, for the time being. So, I mean, we're keeping them on for a couple of hours here. So, let's maybe let's adjourn for today. But Jeff, thank you so much for coming on and joining us, sharing your wisdoms, opening up the joy material to more people. Guys, we'd love to get 100 people, 100 new students. Would be amazing. Doesn't matter if you're online. I don't get endorsed for saying that, by the way. I don't get any money from that. Jeff does this full time, and we don't make millions through the teachings that we give. So we're certainly not profiting lots of money. It's a full-time gig, and we're obviously in service and honored to do it. But we'd love to get as many new students as we can for this retooling of the coming age, because it is extremely important. It really, really is. So hit Jeff up, retoolingtheworld@gmail.com. Go to retoolingtheworld.com, check out their website, and I'm sure Jeff will have you back on very soon. I'm sure we'll have another collab very soon. Is there anything else you want to sort of finish off with before we close?
Well, I mean, one of the things that this is my life's work, as David pointed out, and this is a very important year in the launching of a whole new era to come in, and I would bid you participate in whatever manner you can, because I think the time is upon us. The time is upon us. I've been doing this for the better part of 4 decades, and I cannot emphasize enough how important this time of waking up, the great awakening, right, is. And I think there's something about what beckons you in that you need to pay attention to. This is your time. This is your time to wake up, and this is your material. All of this is your full heritage, and we are here merely to share your rightful heritage with you. And we welcome you in. We invite you in, and we very much look forward and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be of service. And David, thank you so much. David and I are brothers at heart and brothers in arms, and we greatly appreciate the opportunity to disseminate this information. And many blessings to all. And until the next time, David.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Jeff. I'm sure we'll just chat offline here, but thank you all for joining us. We love you all, and we hope to see you soon. And have an amazing rest of your night. Lots of love. Bye for now.